Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel. I am so excited that you have happened upon this video, and if you like what you see, then please feel free to subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me. So, in today's video, I'm going to be discussing the possible job and career options following a degree in biomedical engineering. I studied an MEng in biomedical engineering, and to be honest, the majority of my degree I was thinking, what the hell am I going to do? Like, I had no idea until kind of quite close to the end. So if I had a video like this, I think it would have been very useful. But I hope this will be useful to you and that you'll take something interesting from it. I think this will be useful to you if you are thinking about studying biomedical engineering but you're kind of not sure where it will lead. I think it'll be interesting to you if you are currently in that situation that I was in, where you were at uni and thinking, what the hell am I going to do? This will just show you the different options that are out there. And also, if you're currently in a BME job and you just want to know what other options there are, I can tell you that I have learned of so many things that I had no idea about when I was doing the research for this video. So I am hopeful that you'll also learn about something new. So Forbes calls biomedical engineering the high-paying, low-stress STEM job you probably haven't considered. Now, I am not sure where they got that data from, but let's go with it. High paying, low stress, I don't know. Let's just go with it. It makes it sound quite good. So obviously biomedical engineers can work in such a wide variety of fields, including research, design, manufacture, and in healthcare industries like pharmaceuticals and medical device industries. For my research for this video, I sent out a survey to people that I had went to uni with, and then also people that I knew went to different unis and studied biomedical engineering and kind of different year groups and at different universities and stuff like that. The majority of the respondents did study in Scottish universities, so the data might be a bit skewed in that way, but I still think it's quite interesting to see the results. I had 39 respondents, so I thought that was quite a good place to start, and obviously I did external research as well. If you're watching this video and you participated in my survey, then thank you very much. You really did help inform this video. So for this video, I'm going to go through the three main areas that people go into following a biomedical engineering degree, which is research/academia, healthcare, and in industry. And then I'm also going to talk about some non-BME related ones that you might not have considered. I'm going to include salaries in this video because I think it's important to discuss. When I was applying for jobs, everything just said competitive, and what the hell does that mean? Like, it's so hard to judge. So I think it's really important that people come out of a degree and kind of have an idea of what they should be earning, and I just think transparency is really important, so I'm going to discuss that in this video. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoy. So I'm going to start off with the kind of main area that I think most BME graduates go into, and that is industry, in particular the medical device industry. Now I'm just going to list a bunch of areas that you can work in. There are so many and I've got a list here, so I'm just going to go through them. You can work in research and development, design, manufacturing, process engineering, quality and regulatory issues, be involved in medical sales, a test engineer, a field service engineer, and be involved in operations. Now, of the survey that I conducted, 13 out of the 39 respondents worked in the medical device industry. Only 4 of these respondents had actually went into a grad scheme following uni, and the others were entry-level jobs. I found that really interesting because when I was applying for jobs, I had this clearly incorrect misconception that a kind of graduate scheme within a medical device company would be the only way to get in. I don't know why I had this idea in my head. That actually put me off applying for quite a lot of entry level positions, so I think that's quite an interesting thing to come out of the survey. I think that was partially due to the experience requirements for a lot of the entry level jobs. Even though they were entry level, they required minimum 2 years experience, things like that, so that was just something that I thought was worth noting. When discussing the grad schemes, I thought it'd be interesting to include what type of areas people got the chance to work in grad schemes, because I think that's one of the kind of main points of interest for a grad scheme. Like, you get to experience so many things within the company and within industry, and I think that kind of puts you in a good stance for moving on in your career and kind of seeing what you like and don't like and seeing where your skills lie. I asked people that had been involved in grad schemes what kind of rotations they got to see, and again I'll just list some of them. So examples were R&D, operations, engineering design, product management, regulatory/quality, custom engineering, process engineering, and manufacture. So that is such a wide variety of things. Obviously these were all individual grad schemes. Some were more process, manufacturing, some were more R&D, design, like that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that is a big positive when it comes to a grad scheme, that you get to experience so many different areas within a company. Now when it comes to who to work for, there are so many options out there of medical device companies. The medical device industry is huge and it's continuing to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Examples include Philips, Johnson & Johnson, Medtronic, Stryker, GE Healthcare, Abbott. I'll put even more on the screen, but that's me just listing a few, and those are the kind of big names within the industry. You'll also find so many kind of small to medium companies and also startup companies who are looking for biomedical engineers that are innovative and that have an impressive skill set that they can kind of draw from. It's also worth noting that you do not have to work in the kind of medical device industry. There are so many other companies that will really value your skill set as an engineer and the things that you have learned during uni and and through your other jobs. Things like pharmaceutical companies like GSK, and also just product companies. There's loads of kind of massive companies like that. For example, RB and Procter and Gamble, they're constantly taking on people for R&D roles, kind of engineering, design, manufacture, like all that kind of stuff. The same areas that you'd be working in within the medical device industry. So when it comes to salaries for the medical device industry, the results from the survey did kind of vary, and I'm going to go into each of them. For the question regarding salary in the survey, I asked, what did you make following graduation, and then what are you expected to make in the next few years? Because I knew that all these people had kind of recently graduated, perhaps like in the last year to the last maybe 4 years. So for grad schemes, people were saying it generally started between £28,000 and £32,000, and in the next few years they were thought to progress up to around £35,000. Now obviously this is their personal experience. There might be ranges that are even bigger than that. There might be possible progression that's even bigger than that, but I'm just going off the data that I was able to receive. For entry level roles, there was a slightly larger variation again, so that was mostly starting at between £25,000 and £35,000. There wasn't that much information regarding progression, but I would assume that it's roughly similar to the grad scheme people. It should be worth noting there was also people that had kind of came into medical device companies as interns. I think that's really important, especially in this year and last year, where companies have smaller budgets in general because of things like COVID-19, and they maybe don't have as much budget to take on new grad roles or kind of as many entry level roles. So getting as an intern is a really good way to kind of get a foot in the door. People were saying they started on salaries like £17,000, but over the next couple of years they progress up to £30,000. So that kind of shows how possible that is, and I think it's a really great option if there's not that many other grad schemes or entry level roles available. I thought I'd draw attention to one result which was not working within a medical device company, but it was working within a medical device distributor who works with a bunch of companies, and this was a sales role. Now I'm not sure if I missed the memo about working in medical device sales, but it would appear it is an extremely lucrative area of work. I'll just explain. So salary following graduation, 39,000, pretty decent, plus 24k bonus. I mean, did I miss that meeting? Like, that's amazing. Also, this is all anonymous. It's totally anonymous. I don't know who this person is. I've got no idea. I just thought I'd let you know that. And they shared that they would also expect to progress on to £60,000 plus 24k bonus. So that is insane. Now, as I say, I don't know where these roles are based. I don't know if they're kind of adjusted to cost of living in different areas, but that is an impressive salary. You cannot deny it. So medical sales is, it would appear, a very lucrative area and something worth looking into. I also don't know when this person graduated. I'm not sure how long they've been in this role in order to kind of be able to work up to that salary, but I just thought it was really worth noting and that there's potential to make a lot of money within this area. Okay, so the next field that I'm going to discuss is the kind of research and academia route. So this would involve obviously getting a postgraduate degree, so for example a PhD or an ND, and then going on to do postdoctoral research, and then kind of more senior roles would include a senior lecturer or a senior researcher, that kind of thing. There are so many extremely niche areas within biomedical engineering that would be really interesting to carry out research within, and a lot of startup companies actually result from research groups within universities. In the survey that I carried out, 9 out of 37 of the respondents were involved in research, so 7 of them were involved in a PhD, 1 person was doing an ND, and 1 person was a postdoc fellow. So for salary, when it comes to research, your salary is dependent on your stipend. So the kind of range of stipends were between £15,000 and £18,000. It's worth noting, I did not know this, but stipends are non-taxable, so you kind of get all that money, which is really good. And there's also capacity to earn more throughout your PhD by working in things like tutorials and stuff like that. So if you think that that would be something you enjoy, then there's potential to make money from that. I thought I would also include this little diagram that I thought was quite interesting, because I think off the bat people have an impression that you're kind of really limited with money when it comes to a PhD, but I thought this was quite interesting to show compared to like a graduate scheme role. You've kind of got slightly more potential to make money in a PhD because you don't pay for things like, you don't pay tax, you don't pay national insurance, you don't pay for your student loan yet, you don't pay council tax, and you don't pay income tax. Think of how much of your salary is made up of all those things. Without that, you've got a potential to earn a lot more. So I thought that was quite an interesting diagram to kind of compare the two. I thought I would also include the person that responded that was a postdoctoral fellow. So they were actually working in Manhattan and they'd completed their PhD and they were working on as a postdoc fellow. They were living in Manhattan, so obviously their income had been adjusted to fit the Manhattan cost of living. So they were earning, during their PhD, $30,000, and then as a postdoc it went up to $54,000. So I thought that was quite interesting, even though it is in dollars and Manhattan kind of standards. I thought it was interesting to see that jump, and that could easily be compared to UK prices. So that was a $24,000 increase. So something along those lines could possibly be expected in the UK. As I said, there is potential for more senior roles, so if you stay in a university and you become like a senior lecturer or something like that, I don't actually have information regarding salaries for that, but I'll try and find some, I'll include it here. It is worth noting that some of the respondents from the survey stated that finding permanent posts for PhDs was quite difficult and that funding was a bit of an issue. So that is a bit of an additional stress, kind of worrying where your next job's going to come from and stuff like that. So that's just worth noting. However, within research, there are options to collaborate with other universities and collaborate with like industry partners and stuff like that. So that's a really good way to get your foot in the door if you're considering working in industry in the future. This is a bit of a separate thing, but I'm going to put it in this section because I'm not really 100% sure where it should go. I had never heard of this and I think it's quite interesting. So this is medical writing, and I'm just going to read out the definition. Medical writing involves the development and production of print or digital documents that deal specifically with medicine or healthcare. The profession of medical writing calls for knowledge in both writing and science, combining a writer's creative talent with the rigour and detail of research and the scientific process. So as I said, I had never heard of this and I thought it was quite interesting to read about. It appears that you would create a whole bunch of documentation. I'll include a screenshot of like different examples and I'll just read out a few right now. So some include healthcare policy documents, grant proposals, abstracts for journals and conferences, marketing materials and sales training, and many, many more. I've also got a big list of kind of the types of companies and people that would hire you as a medical writer, and I'll include them again, but I'll just list off a few. So clinical research organisations, journals, medical device and pharmaceutical companies, and government agencies, and again many, many more. When you Google medical writer jobs, there does appear to be quite a lot. I can't believe I'd never heard of this. I don't know again if I missed that meeting also, but I thought it was quite interesting. I have some information regarding salary, but this was just from a general Google search. So the average medical writer salary in the UK is £45,000 per year. Entry level positions start at £30,000, while most experienced workers make up to £65,000 per year. So again, an impressive starting salary and an ability to kind of progress and make even more. So next I'm going to talk about another main field that you can work in after biomedical engineering, and this is healthcare. This is actually the field that I work in. So this is what I do. So for working in healthcare, you can generally work, if you're in the UK, within the NHS or privatised healthcare companies, and similar in places like the US or elsewhere in Europe, kind of like other hospitals and healthcare companies. So one option within healthcare is to become a clinical technologist, and within this there are so many different roles that you can go for. I'm going to include a screenshot again of the kind of potential roles that you can have a look at, but bear in mind that this is specific to the NHS. So within the NHS, salaries are split up into bands, and that's the kind of pay scale that they use. So for a clinical technologist, you would generally start on like a scheme, and you'll have a specific training plan that you need to carry out. I've not included a strict example because it depends on what area you're working in, but you'll generally be on maybe a 2 to 3 year programme and you'll be a trainee, and then after that time you'll be a qualified clinical technologist. So again, depending on what area you decide to specialise in, the pay slightly changes, but this generally ranges between a band 4, which starts at around £21,000, and a band 5, which starts at £24,000. Once you have completed your training and you are a qualified clinical technologist, you will then be expected to be employed as a band 5 or a band 6, which is between around £25,000, I need to double check that, and £31,000. Okay, so next is another healthcare based career, and this is being a clinical scientist, and this is actually what I do. So in order to become a clinical scientist, you will have to go through a training programme. There is a UK-wide training programme known as the STP or Scientist Training Programme, but there's also kind of variants throughout the country for more specific programmes. So for example, I'm on an equivalent scheme called the Scottish Medical Physics and Clinical Engineering Scheme, and I've specialised in clinical engineering. So for becoming a clinical scientist, the programme that you're on will be around a 3-year programme, and it'll be a mixture of academic learning in the form of an MSc and then workplace-based learning. So you'll see various rotations in the kind of area that you're working in, and then you'll focus on one specialism. So for example, I was on the engineering scheme, so I did rotations in medical device design and development, clinical measurement including things like ophthalmology, urology, neurology, vascular, and I also did some rehabilitation engineering and device risk management and governance. My specialism is now rehabilitation engineering, so that involves like assistive technology, so like custom wheelchairs and environmental controls and stuff, and also clinical gait analysis and a bit of medical engineering design. So there's a wide variety of specialisms that the Scientist Training Programme covers, and I will include a screenshot of these just here. Not all of these will be well suited to a biomedical engineering degree, but some of them definitely are. So for example, the one that I discussed, clinical engineering and rehabilitation engineering, and also I know of people that studied biomedical engineering and went on to do the medical physics scheme, which is more kind of imaging based. So for example, like imaging with ionising and non-ionising radiation, and also radiotherapy, that sort of thing. So if that's that's something you're interested in, then that's a possibility. Similarly to the clinical technologist scheme, you'll be on a set salary when you're a trainee, and then once you're qualified you'll be put up a band. So when you're training you'll be in a band 6 role, which currently starts at £32,000. That's in Scotland. I think it's also similar for England. And then when you're fully qualified you'll become a band 7, which starts at around £39,000. There is room for progression within this scheme, so I think there's a relatively new scheme which is called the Higher Specialist Scientist Training Programme, and that is a 5-year workplace based programme, and then once you've completed that it makes you eligible to apply for consultant clinical scientist posts. I'm doing this because I've not seen any of these posts advertised, but I'm not sure if that will coincide with when the scheme's been on for a bit longer. I'm not entirely sure, but it's just worth noting that that is kind of a means for you to progress. Doing that scheme involves achieving a doctoral award, so I personally don't have a doctorate, so I'd be really interested in doing that scheme. And also you get more kind of leadership and management skills, which will obviously be useful if you're wanting to progress further in your career. With the clinical technologist and the clinical scientist programme, there is also room for kind of progression in your career. That would involve more senior, probably management roles. So for example, a team lead role or a kind of head of department, head of service, that kind of role. And for those type of roles, you'd probably be speaking about band 7, band 8, band 9 posts within that region, and I'll include screenshots of the kind of range that includes. It's worth noting that with the salaries for NHS, even though I'm saying you're starting at 32, you're starting at 39, it's a scale, so the longer that you're working in that position, like you'll get a pay increment rise every so often, maybe every year, every couple of years, just depending on the band. I found it strange when I started working in the NHS that people do speak in bands, but now, having spoken to some friends that work in perhaps like medical device industry and stuff like that, I actually think that the transparency is really good. I'm going to include this in here as a wee kind of aside, because I was watching some other videos of people from America that study biomedical engineering, and because of the structure of their university, how it's like minor and major, is that right? I don't really know, but I think that I've got a note, if they study engineering while they're doing their pre-medicine studies, I think it's then easier to get into medicine. I feel like biomedical engineering, a lot of people initially wanted to do medicine and then kind of changed their mind and ended up in BME. So if you reach the end of your degree and you're thinking, I still want to do it, I think in America you can possibly get in a wee bit easier and maybe able to bypass some of those kind of early years. But I think in the UK you'd still have to do the full medicine degree. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that's right. Okay, for this one I thought I'd do this as like a kind of section on its own, and this is jobs involved in the kind of regulatory area. So you could get a job working within like the MHRA or like in America the FDA, something like that, a role within there. There's also obviously quality and regulatory roles within what I've spoken about already, so within medical device companies and within like healthcare. There's also roles that are quite interesting involving kind of clinical trials and stuff like that. So you can work in a team that is involved with kind of organising clinical trials and the kind of process that are involved with that. One of the roles is called the clinical trial organiser, which kind of explains itself, but that's quite interesting. That was one that someone in the survey actually brought up, saying that they'd never heard of that and they thought that was quite interesting, and I agree. Okay, so the next kind of area that I'm going to discuss is jobs that are non-BME related. So out of the 37 respondents, 11 were not in a BME related role, and that was for a number of reasons which I'm going to go into. So if you leave uni or you're in another job and you're thinking, I actually don't really enjoy this field, there are so many other options out there for you. People really respect and look for the skills which engineers have because they are really, really transferable to other sectors. So always keep that in mind if you're thinking, I'm not sure if this is what I want to be doing. One of these areas is within the financial world. So for example, working in accounting or working as like a data analyst or something like that. There's jobs like that posted every year on these kind of finance websites like big banks and stuff like that. There's grad schemes, there's also entry level jobs which you would definitely be competent for and you would have the skill set for that kind of role. One of the people that responded to the survey had actually went on to do their postgraduate teaching degree, and I found that really interesting. You'd probably go on to do like a STEM based subject, so maths, sciences, like all that kind of thing. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I think it's a really good way to like target kids and to get involved at STEM from a young age. So that was just something that I thought was worth mentioning as well. There are also different sectors of engineering which your skills will be transferable to as well. So for biomedical engineering, you do a mixture of mechanical engineering and electrical engineering and a bit of software as well. So you have those skills already. You might not feel like you're a kind of expert in them, but you do have skills that a lot of other people don't have at all. So it's worth knowing that and kind of giving yourself credit for that. Areas which you can go into are like things that I'd said, like mechanical, electrical, and also software engineering. So I believe that 2 of the respondents had actually got involved in software engineering after doing a biomedical engineering degree, so that shows like it is definitely accessible for you. I already discussed the finance world, but that is somewhere that you could definitely work as a software engineer. Also, even within healthcare, like that's a big sector, software engineering, so that's somewhere that you would be well placed. There's also roles within the government, so you could be a member of like the civil service. I remember when I finished uni, I was having a look at the civil service fast stream jobs. It seemed like a really good scheme, and there's like lots of individual sectors that you can work in. So healthcare was one that I was interested in, but there's so many other ones, as I say, that your skills will be really transferable to. So that's something that's worth looking at if you're kind of interested in working within government and being able to make like change at that level. A few people had also went into further education, so they were doing a postgrad degree in subjects like electrical engineering and like medical imaging and that sort of thing. But again, you can do like whatever you want. There's so many options, and if you've survived a BME degree, I'm sure you'll be able to survive other degrees if you want to. If you're looking to apply for jobs, I have a few bits of general advice that I would give just from what I've learned so far and mistakes that I felt like I made. I would say apply for jobs even if you don't feel like you have the necessary qualifications. I feel like I really let things kind of slip past because I was like, oh, I'll never get that. That's not me. I don't have that experience. I don't have 2 minimum years experience. I don't have blah blah blah. But just go for it. Some also might not say that it's specific towards biomedical engineering. I remember searching for jobs and I was thinking, no one wants our degree. Everyone wants mechanical or electronic. But just go for it, because a lot of people don't realise the skill set that biomedical engineers do have. If you're in a position to do this, I would also recommend trying to go for summer internships. You can work in a variety of internships. So for example, those medical device companies that I discussed, the kind of big names, they offer things like summer internships, and also within your university you'll probably find that there's research opportunities that you can do throughout the summer. That's something that I personally did and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, just have a look into that. If it's feasible for you to do that for 1 or 2 summers during university, I would really advise doing that. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap up that video here. So I hope that you enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching if you made it to the end. I learned about so many new interesting roles I hadn't heard of before conducting the research for this video, but I'm sure there's so many other ones out there. So if you know of any, please comment them down below and let us all know. Again, thank you to everyone that helped me in my survey. It was really useful. I think that the 37 responses were all great, and I was really pleased with the feedback that I got. If you're interested in checking out any of my other content, I would really appreciate it. If you're still in uni, I actually have a video about writing a first class dissertation / thesis that you should definitely go and check out. It's full of really handy top tips. Please like this video if you did like it and if you took anything useful away from it, and subscribe if you'd like to see anything else from me. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!